Tonight, one of the family members who made a disturbing discovery inside a Wake County home now speaking out and describing the bloody scene he witnessed. Angelica Alvarez live on Howard Road with his chilling account of what he and several relatives found. Angelica?
Well, they're here on scene still tonight. There is a deputy sitting watch over the area, and caution tape still surrounds this house. Now, the Wake County Sheriff's Office still not confirming how the two men died, but that family member I spoke to tells me that it looks like the two were shot, and now he and the rest of the family just want to know why.
Howard Road in Fuquay-Varina is all family. Several generations living right here are now using this closeness to lean on each other now more than ever.
I just don't know who would do something like this to him.
Carl Diggs is talking about his uncle, Arthur Brown. He and an aunt found the 78-year-old dead inside of his home where he lived and based his 30-plus year cement business. And
she started hollering, "Carl, Carl." And when she hollered, I ran. I started running over here. And I ran back straight to my aunt and uncle's bedroom. And I saw my uncle laying on the bed. It was like he was in the kneeling position.
He says it looked like his uncle had been shot in the back, and that gruesome discovery would only lead to another. In the next room, Diggs' cousin found Brown's longtime friend and co-worker, 66-year-old David McKoy.
He saw David laying there in the bed, had the sheet pulled up like he was just asleep, and from what he said, it looked like a gunshot wound to the head.
Investigators have been at the home ever since, only confirming someone did break in. And the family says there were red flags. Diggs lives across the street. He says Friday morning his dogs wouldn't stop barking at something. And just last Wednesday, he says his uncle and McKoy told him someone broke into their work trucks just outside the home and disconnected the security cameras.
Whoever this person is, they had to have been there before.
The cameras were reconnected, and Diggs hopes they captured something investigators can use to give him and his family here along Howard Road some answers.
Now, Diggs said McKoy, who worked with his uncle for at least 20 years, also says that there may have been someone staying in an empty trailer that they have behind this house. He says just recently he noticed a blanket and a water bottle out there, but at last check, the Wake County Sheriff's Office not naming or giving any information about a possible suspect into this.
A Wake County family searching for answers in the death of their loved ones. Two men were found dead inside a home on Howard Road this weekend. 78-year-old Arthur Brown and 66-year-old David McKoy lived and worked together. WRAL's Brian Mims alive in Fuquay-Varina tonight as that small neighborhood continues to grieve. Brian.
Ken, tonight the house is still surrounded by yellow crime scene tape. Sheriff Donnie Harrison told me the scene will likely remain secured for the next 2 or 3 days. The Wake County Sheriff's Office has released very few details about this case, but tonight I spoke with a family member who was among the first inside to see the horror.
I knew that it was bad.
Carl Diggs had just heard his aunt yell for him. He ran to his Uncle Arthur's house across the street Saturday afternoon, through the front door to his bedroom, where he says he found his uncle had been shot.
You know, when I went back there and saw my uncle, he wasn't breathing, he wasn't responding. I was calling his name. We had been calling his phone.
And he went to another bedroom, the one where Uncle Arthur's 66-year-old friend and co-worker, David McKoy, slept.
Looked like somebody shot him in his sleep.
He called 911. Carl Diggs last saw his uncle, 78-year-old Arthur Brown, on Thursday. He says his uncle mentioned something about his home's security cameras being disconnected and turned skyward, as if
somebody who was out here might be casing the area or casing his house.
The Wake County Sheriff's Office has not confirmed any of this, not the manner of death, not the circumstances, only that this is a death investigation. Throughout Sunday, yellow tape remained around the yard as a deputy kept watch from a car. For the families of both men, their deaths defy explanation. Arthur Brown was a cement contractor, well known around Fuquay-Varina, who his nephew says gave jobs to people who needed them. Kind-hearted men, both, he says.
I just can't think of anybody. And that's what we're puzzled about. That's what the families are puzzled about. That's what we want to know. Who would want to do this to them? It was senseless.
The bodies will undergo autopsies tomorrow. Sheriff Harrison says he expects to release more information once those results come in. For the time being, the family is just pleading for answers.
Now to the emotional farewell and the moving tribute to a Wake County man found murdered with his friend 1 week ago. Many questions still surround the mysterious double murder on Howard Road in Fuquay-Varina. David McKoy's funeral was yesterday, and today, as Angelica Alvarez reports, family members of 78-year-old Arthur Brown pleaded for answers during his funeral.
I'm going on a long, long journey.
Song and people packed St. Augusta Missionary Baptist Church to send off and celebrate 78-year-old Arthur Brown.
I've lost a friend, a buddy.
Everyone here feeling pain, but also finding comfort in fond memories.
He said, well, where you at? Where you at? I said, I went up to the back. I didn't see you. He said, you didn't want to see me. You want to see the check.
The love and laughter in this church, for a moment, almost overshadows the senseless act that ended Brown's life. Just the weekend before, Brown and longtime friend, 66-year-old David McKoy, were found shot and killed inside their home here on Howard Road. Brown was not only a family man, but also a longtime businessman, well known in the community. Making it to the funeral are people Brown worked with over the years, even the mayor of Fuquay-Varina.
I miss him so much.
Brown's son, who says he almost could not face saying goodbye to his father, stood at the podium to say that goodbye and to plead for justice.
Everybody out there to the news media, if you know anything, please do not keep it to yourself and share it with law enforcement. To get my crown.
In hopes of finding someone somewhere who can tell him and all these people why Brown and McKoy had to lose their lives.
We are learning more about the arrests of 3 men accused of a double murder inside a Wake County home. Family members found the bodies of 78-year-old Arthur Brown and 66-year-old David McKoy 2 weeks ago. The two worked together at A.L. Brown Cement. Well, last night, a sudden break in the case when police revealed they had 3 suspects, and tonight all 3 are in custody. Bruce Mildorf reports more arrests are likely.
Yellow police tape still surrounds the victim's Fuquay-Varina home. It's remained an active crime scene since July 19th.
We've been working day and night trying to solve this murder.
21-year-old Greg Crawford, the first suspect taken into custody, was arrested early Saturday morning. Crawford lives in Fuquay's South Viewpoint subdivision. Neighbors told me he lives with his younger sister and mother.
I remember they made dinner for our neighbors one time, and we came over and had some of the food that they cooked, and it was awesome, you know. So I mean, they were part of the neighborhood for sure. It's unbelievable, to tell you the truth.
Shocked was the word for it.
This man doesn't want to be identified. He told me he spoke with Crawford on several occasions.
He said he was basically in Holly Springs most of the time.
The other 2 suspects, now in custody, are both from Holly Springs. 20-year-old Kevin Britt was arrested Saturday night. 21-year-old Donovan Richardson turned himself in Sunday morning. All 3 are charged with murder and robbery with a dangerous weapon, among other charges.
There will be more arrests.
It's just a shame.
He also knew one of the victims, 78-year-old Arthur Brown.
He was a nice man. He would help you anytime that he could.
Bruce Mildorf, WRAL News, Fuquay-Varina.
The 2 victims lived together and worked at A.L. Brown Cement. Brown founded the company. Family members say he reached out to McKoy and gave him a job and a place to stay.
Now to new revelations about that double murder in Fuquay-Varina. Tonight we are getting our first look at the arrest warrants in the case. They accuse the 3 suspects of killing Arthur Brown and David McKoy, all for just a couple $100 and a few guns. Angelica Alvarez live at the Wake County Detention Center, where the trio is awaiting their first court appearance tomorrow. Angelica?
Heather, that's right. Investigators believe that robbery was the motive behind these murders, and these arrest papers show that those 3 men went in that house armed and then left that house with several guns and $150 in cash.
When people take another life out of something materialistic, it's useless, senseless.
Carl Diggs lives right across the street from where his uncle, 78-year-old Arthur Brown, was found shot and killed, right alongside 66-year-old David McKoy. The house where for 2 weeks Wake County deputies have not left.
They worked a lot of hours around the clock. I mean, I would come home and they were here. As we speak, they're there.
And he says he's happy the diligence has paid off. On Saturday, Wake County deputies arrested 21-year-old Gregory Crawford. This exclusive cell phone video sent in by an ABC 11 viewer shows Crawford being taken into custody on Smith Ridge Way in Fuquay-Varina, just a few miles from where the victims lived. Deputies also arrested 20-year-old Kevin Britt. Then Sunday morning, they say 21-year-old Donovan Richardson turned himself in.
Arrested over the weekend, charged with those murders, faced a judge. Angelica Alvarez is live from the Wake County Justice Center with what happened in the courtroom. Angelica?
Tisha, one by one, the judge denied all three of those suspects bond and then told them what they could face if they are convicted of those murder charges.
You could receive the death penalty or life without the possibility of parole.
Kevin Britt and Donovan Richardson faced him in court. You can't see the expression on their faces when they heard those words, but you could see the tears on their loved ones' faces.
A 22-year-old Wake County man sentenced to die in prison, Gregory Crawford of Fuquay-Varina, was given 2 consecutive life without parole sentences for a double murder near that Wake County town 2 years ago. Ed Crump was in the courtroom at the Wake Justice Center today. And Ed, you heard some pretty emotional statements from the families of those victims.
Yeah, Joel, the families are still grieving, and nearly 2 years after the killings, they still can't wrap their head around the motive: robbery.
It's just been a really difficult time. I miss my father every day. And it's just so hard to accept that he was taken away because someone wanted to come and take what he had.
Kenneth Brown told the judge that his father, Arthur, was the kind of man who would have helped his killers if they had asked. Arthur Brown was asleep in his bed in July 2014 when Gregory Crawford broke in with an accomplice and went into the bedroom of Brown's home. The 78-year-old pulled a pistol on the two. That's according to the prosecutor, who says the accomplice, Donovan Richardson, had his own gun and shot Brown twice in the chest. He said Crawford then took Brown's gun to the next bedroom and shot 66-year-old David McKoy in the face as he slept. Crawford confessed to that killing, but because he was committing a felony when Brown was shot, he was charged with that murder as well.
When he made the choice to put a gun to David's head while he was asleep, not bothering him, not attacking him, not even trying to defend himself, but asleep, he changed our lives. My life, my children's lives, and my family's lives forever.
McKoy says when she first saw the two men after they were arrested, she thought they were just children, the kind of people who should have been on a college campus like her children were. Richardson's case is currently set for trial in May of 2017. He will face the death penalty.